Good evening. First order of business, we're going to open the meeting to continue discussion on the commercial solar regulations from our November 9. So I would ask that we open that portion of it. Guess I forgot to ask the point of reference. Do we need a vote to pull that out of recess?
No, you're just opening up a recess meeting.
Okay, great. We'll just move along. I just want to make a couple comments here. I watched the November 22 County Commission meeting and their discussion on the solar regs. And then verified with staff my understanding of what kind of transpired through that discussion. The county commissioners now desire to provide limited scale solar regulations. They also want to review the regulations proposed for the ground mounted residential solar projects. Don, would you mind expanding on what that all means and what you want to share with what you saw at the meeting?
Okay, what the county commissioners' desire or direction is now is they have not banned commercial solar wind in the zoned area of the county. They have not asked for the process of how to ban it in the unzoned area of the county. But at this time, they would like to see regulations on limited scale solar and possibly look at setback regulations on pole-mounted private solar. And that their comment was that spending any time creating regulations for large-scale commercial solar would be a waste of time. So that's the direction. So what I told them is that this committee will be creating limited scale regulations and possibly looking at residential regulations if this committee desires to do that, and that's what they're going to be sent to them from this board.
Gotcha.
Could you further explain the term limited scale?
Limited scale regulations at this time, and what this committee has said is 10 acres or less or 2 megawatts or less. That's limited scale. So anything above 10 acres, anything above 2 megawatts would not be limited scale.
So it's
So-
basically a scale that like the co-op, electric co-op would
That's
be
correct.
wanting to put in. All right.
That's correct.
So if further work on commercial regs is a waste of time, does that mean all of our work from this past year was a waste of time?
Well, it was a waste of time as far as creating regulations for large-scale commercial, but you can take a lot of that you worked on and stuff and downtone it maybe or maybe not and make it into the limit scale. So that gave Mark and I an opportunity to make somewhat of a draft, and we was able to use that to come up with that draft for limited scale. That's what we will do if we were asked by this committee to do it. So we would use those if you ask us to do that to make, so something for you to work off of. So was it a waste? As of right now, it wasn't a waste, but they're saying it's a waste of time to go any further with it, so that's, you can read into that.
One of the positives though is the commission has learned a lot about the solar industry.
Yes, I think-
We didn't have that knowledge, 8, 9 months ago.
That's true. That's true. I don't think that they would have put you through that if they would have known more about it, but none of us knew anything about it, and they didn't for sure, so it's just part of the.
Wasn't our assignment to get ahead of development and not get caught in the same position as wind was?
They also extended the moratorium 6 months too.
This moratorium goes till July 1st in order for us to create regulations, as I just described, limited and possible private, and I certainly hope it doesn't take that long.
So the whole commercial question is still in limbo, or?
Whether commercial solar is going to be allowed in the zoned part of the county, unzoned part of the county, has not been determined at this time. But don't waste our time creating regulations for large-scale commercial. That was the message. I think that if they choose to prohibit large-scale solar in this county, it's easy in the zone part. That happens here. There's a proper process, and the county counselor is determining what that proper process is for the unzoned part of the county in case the county commissioners choose to do that.
Couldn't we just expand the special zoning district we have that we created for wind to include solar?
That's one option.
That'd be
Well, I mean, that's one option that they can look at doing, is run it through this board with another text amendment and stuff. But the other one is, we have no regulations out there other than for wind, and so there's probably another avenue that they can go to prohibit solar out there, should they choose to do that, without having to go through this board, because we have no regulations out there other than that wind, and
Yeah,
so it's treated as unzoned, even though it is got a zoning district assigned to allow that land.
So as far as solar right now, you have no say in the unzoned part of the county? None. And they can make it to where you do, going through that process you just said, or not if there's another avenue and go that avenue, that's up to the county counselor and them.
So in the zoned part, if there would be a permanent ban, would there be another public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, on that. Yes, there would be.
Yep.
Because our original task was to develop regulations. It was not to prohibit commercial solar. So that's something that we would have to have another public hearing on and give the public an opportunity to voice their opinion and comment on that particular amendment.
Because see, the public hearing we had nothing to do with banning anything.
Right.
Okay.
Based on, oh, sorry, Harley, did you have?
No, I think you also had some comment in your remarks about roof mounted and ground mounted and for non-commercial and regulations for that.
It's not the desire of the county commission, which it's up to you guys, it's not up to them. But you're gonna send this to them. It's not their desire to regulate solar, roof-mounted solar for residential.
But pedestal mounted.
Pedestal,
They want that door.
they wanna look at it.
Yeah.
If you think that you need to do it. If you don't think you need to look at it, then that's what you send to them.
There's a distinguishing bit between roof mounted and pedestal mounted private solar.
Right. Private solar, roof mounted on the roofs, they don't want to regulate that. They recommend not to regulate that, that's up to you. But any pole mounted into the ground, they would like to see that if you choose to regulate it.
And does that have a scale on it
No.
in their minds? In other words, it could be one pole mounted panel, and they're suggesting we probably ought to have some regulations about that.
They'd like to look at it. And we looked at the residential solars that they seem to be putting in, even talking to the person that supplies them down here at Yoder. And they're mainly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're mainly not a pole. It's like a small little stadium with several solars on it. So it's bigger than just a pole in the ground.
Frame mounted kind of.
Yes, it's frame mounted, so it may be as big as a garage, or may be as big as a bigger building. So you look at the setbacks that way. And what Mark and I talked about, and I even mentioned to county commission that maybe we make that on private solar another accessory and go through the regulations through that method.
Yep. I think we're looking at.
Part of our discussion once we give you that go ahead, right? Okay.
Yeah, we've internally talked, about removing the residential solar from the limited scale or commercial solar regulations that we have developed and placing that under an accessory use category found in Article 15. By doing that, then that will also constitute another public hearing, but that public hearing would still be held with the other ones that we would have to have for this new direction, so. remember before, the residential was kind of a last minute thing, I suppose, that some of the board wanted, and so we just thought, let's just put it at the end of the commercial and limited scale regulations, and probably we should remove that, and it probably fits better in the regulations under an accessory use.
We even
for-
debated it last time.
Yeah.
And voted
Yeah.
on whether to include that or not include
Yeah,
that.
right,
And I was one that voted to take it out.
yeah, you're right, yep.
So now they're saying that we are thinking that it needs to.
Yep. To be-
That's what we're thinking,
So
that's
what
up
we're
to you.
thinking.
That's-
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to, there's a path that we need to take here in order to direct staff
Yeah,
to
so there's-
get to that point to where we can discuss it. Any other questions? Based on the new direction from the commissioners, the county commissioners, discussion on this draft, we'll conclude the discussion on this draft for right now. We're requesting no further discussion by this commission on that set of regulations until we've got, this is part of that process. Since the public hearing we held on the proposed commercial solar regulations also included the regulations for limited and residential, no new public hearing will need to take place. No public hearing is required to modify that draft as we ask the staff to provide that draft to us. So only a new public hearing will only need to be held to consider any text amendments prohibiting commercial solar projects. Just kind of a clarification.
Let's say that again. I want to
Okay.
make sure I got that locked in my
All right.
brain.
Since during our public hearing, part of the draft that we were discussing at that public hearing, okay, that draft included limited scale and residential in that draft. We will not need a new public hearing to request or to review these limited scale and personal property, or not personal, but
Private.
private, yeah, we will not need a new public hearing for those.
So even if we make
If we,
revisions to
we've
those
got,
original
that's correct.
regs, that we still won't need to.
we've gotten
Do another
public
hearing.
input on that piece of that puzzle.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and then moving forward, a new public hearing will be needed if the commission so desires that we prohibit.
Yep.
It seems, Garth, you brought it up, I can hear a little bit of a pain point in your voice. Boy, we worked on this thing so long, it seems a little bit frustrating, but even though, we have this, it's a process. And it is a process, and sometimes processes are longer than others. I think they work all right. I mean, Harley, I think you mentioned Steve, you mentioned, we learned a lot in the last 8 months that we did not know last January, a year ago. So our time is not lost in this process, so I feel we've gained ground in that regard.
I'd even go one step further. When we had all the public hearings on wind, we learned a lot there too.
Yes,
So
we
it
did.
wasn't just the last year, it's the last several years.
We've been on a learning vertical line, Harley. It's not been a learning curve, it's been in some cases a vertical line, exactly. Based on our best practices of going through the processes that we did, I request a motion to direct staff to bring to this commission a new draft which complies with the commissioner's direction on both limited scale and residential solar regulations.
So moved.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded. Staff, would you like to call the roll on this? Well, back up. Is there any discussion on that motion? Staff, please call the roll.
Strand,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Seltzer,
Yes.
Macklin,
Yes,
and Gertson.
Yes. Okay, at this time, I'll call for a motion to recess the November 9 meeting until January 18 at 4:30 PM here at the Public Works Building.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. November 9 meeting is closed.
Recess.
Recess, excuse me. Yes, it is recessed. I had recess in the motion.
I wish it was closed.
I've got moving on my mind. All right, at this time, we'll open the December 21 meeting of the Reno County Planning Commission. Staff, will you call the roll?
Schwertfeger, Strand. Yes. Schaefer,
Here.
Seltzer. Here. Macklin,
Here,
Martin, Gertson.
Here. Welcome, everyone. We've got several items of business. Hope you've had a chance to review what staff sent in your packet. Part of which is going to be the resolution setting the dates for the 2024 meetings. Is there any comment on those dates?
Same as it's been in years past, third Thursday of the month at 4:30 PM. The board can certainly modify it if they so choose.
This is our chance, if you so desire, if you want to modify the time that we meet or the day that we meet, this is time for that.
I could meet earlier, but I'm not an employed person.
I get you. Any discussion on this?
4:30 is fine.
Okay,
It seems to work.
so,
As a currently employed person, I like the time.
yep, agreed, agreed.
Harley and I with Garth, you know, we're unemployed, so.
Oh, goodness, okay.
You know, we move it earlier.
can I wait and see what's going on those third Thursdays before I vote?
Well, you know.
No, that is an
Like at
excellent
the
point.
Fox Theater?
That is
Take
an
it earlier
excellent
so we don't
point.
conflict with Harley's social schedule.
Have no objection. It's a path that's been on for a long time and it should stay there.
Agreed. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Been moved to accept the resolution, and is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, do we need to call a roll on this one? All in favor of accepting the resolution 2023-01, setting the dates and time and location, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Next item of business is discussion of public and possible action on revising the planning commission bylaws. Staff, you had something in our packets that had a lot of yellow lettering, yellow highlighting in it. Would you like to kind of elaborate on what we're looking at?
Sure, board. The reason this came about has more to do with when this board is acting as the Board of Zoning Appeals. There's some additional duties that you're acquiring here under the Board of Zoning Appeals here. I'm still working on those revisions, but I thought it'd be a good time to make the same similar revisions here to the Planning Commission resolution. I'm not going to go over everything, but in their bylaws, you'll see things that are highlighted in yellow. That's where there's a change taking place. If you see something that's struck through, I'd like to just remove that. A lot of it was just cleaning up a lot of the language, in there, but also to kind of get it into line the way we've been doing business here for the last several years here. There's been some slight modifications to that. I won't go over all the changes unless you guys have something specific that you want to look at. The first one that I would highlight would be on page 2 here, and it's number 3 under the appointments, where it says that members shall be appointed to a 3-year term beginning January 1st and ending on December 31st. Members may be reappointed but not serve more than 3 consecutive terms. Members whose term does not commence on January 1 must be reappointed by December 31st of the same year. And then you can't serve more than 7 months, without having that count as a year. So if you serve if you get appointed for some reason, like in October, you could go that 3 months, and then you get reappointed by that December 31st, and then you can serve a 9-year term if you so choose. If you get appointed in March, then that year is going to count toward your 9 years of service. And so what I tried to do here was just kind of get this in line with what we're doing right now with your terms of service here with that. Questions on that? Anything? We've had that happen before where somebody had to resign for, whatever reason, and then we appointed somebody like mid-year. And so then that, depending on when that person was appointed, he could either serve additional 9 years, or that year had to count as one of his 9 years right there. So, if you were appointed like in, September of a year, you could probably serve 9.5 years technically, on there.
Am I correct? That's always been understood, but now it's in print.
Yes, it's always been kind of understood, and same thing with like the appointment dates. It's always been kind of understood, but never really in print, and never really that clear. So I'm attempting to kind of clear that up. I didn't really have any changes on page 3. I just took out governing body and tried to be consistent with saying that it's county commissioners or county commission. Page 4 was kind of the same thing. Just a little bit of wordsmithing, if you will. Then on page 5, the order of the business, I added in a welcome or comments by the chairperson. So the chairperson always welcomes everybody to the meeting, and if he has any or she has any comments for the public and the board, then that'd be the time that person can make those comments. For several years, again, we've had something where we explain to the public the hearing procedure that we have, especially like with rezones or conditional uses, those types of hearings. We explain to the public what is to be expected of them and what their role is, and that's the long paragraphs, I guess, if you will, that Russ reads for every meeting so everybody knows what is expected. Also added in here under old business, we always don't have old business, on the agenda, but if we do have old business goes before the new business, and so I just want to clarify that not every meeting is going to have old business in it, and so under the old bylaws, there might have been an expectation to have that as a category, so I just want to kind of clarify that as well. Next one, number 4, is talking about when you can go into an executive session where nobody from the public would be allowed to watch the proceedings. On page 6, at the top, instead of saying an authorized representative of the planning commission, it's really the chairperson. The chairperson can come to a county commission meeting to communicate to the county commissioners a recommendation that this full board has presented to them. If the chairperson can't be available, then he can select the vice chairperson to be able to do that if they feel like there's a need. Rarely have I think that one of this board has been present with the county commissioners. That's usually staff's job to do that, but certainly if the chair feels it's necessary for him or her to be present at the commission meeting to be able to give further explanation on what happened at the public hearing, then that is where that authority would come into play right there. Again, on number 6, under agenda.
Let me stop and think out loud there. What you're saying is one member of this group could go to the county commissions and explain the decision we've made.
Chairperson.
Usually the chairperson, yes.
But that's to be a representative of this committee.
Yes.
It could be the chairperson, he could appoint somebody to do the same thing.
Yes.
And my past experience serving on the city commission one time, as a member of the planning commission for the city, I was asked by one of the city commissioners to explain something, and I did. And later on was advised by legal counsel that the record should stand and not the voice. So what we're doing is saying, in addition to the record that we create, there is another avenue, and it's okay.
I think it's more, correct me if I'm wrong, it's more of a presentation, not maybe adjusting the record, but let's just say the draft that we approved would be saying, and it would be, instead of Don presenting the draft to the commissioners, it would be the chair saying, before you have your draft. And that, it wouldn't be an adjustment of the record or anything like that. Now, there could be some questions forwarded to that person speaking that for some clarity, but it probably wouldn't be that person wouldn't be able to speak for this board in changing the intent of a document.
Has that ever happened? In
Not since I've been here.
Not since, it rarely happens during, I'm just trying to think, I don't know if it happened during wind or not. There's been a few, I think there's probably been a couple of cases where the chairman has showed up. Where it would happen probably most would be, like, say, during a text amendment, or during maybe a real controversial a case where a board member may feel the need to do that. Because you got to remember the record and, like, the minutes, that's not a verbatim dictation of what happened at the meeting. We don't do certainly that. So somebody may have had a question on what happened and what was said and what was meant by that, and so the chair or the vice chair may come.
Based upon that, my past experience, it seems like that should be better if it said, for purpose of reporting the written and documented recommendations of the planning commission, rather than just,
Rather than just recommendation.
recommend the recorded and documented recommendations of the,
The reported and documented, say that again, Harley, the
the
reported.
reported and documented. I'm not trying to put a limit on what the
Yeah.
chairman could say. I'm
Right.
just saying that this ought to be in tune with what legal counsel would recommend. Because that's where we got in trouble at the city, is the council said, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's the record
Right.
that goes before the decision makers, not somebody's oral
Yeah.
presentation.
Right.
Yeah, they shouldn't have a separate opinion. They should be speaking of what the
Of what the record.
record
Says,
said.
yes, I mean, so,
And
yeah.
and it is always documented.
Right, it is documented, but yeah, it'd be speaking about what the record was on that. And so, I say it rarely, if ever happens, but if the chairman felt the need, yeah, the chairman's not there to
And I think
voice
if
his
Jack was here,
opinion.
he would be joining me on this, because I think he was part of that.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, probably, yeah,
And if staff doesn't understand that, can't explain it, then they've been asleep.
yeah.
Is that why you have your eyes closed?
That'd be one.
But yeah, we can certainly add that.
So you
with
want to
the
read,
board's consent.
you want to read that sentence, how that would read, the proposed?
So I have, the chairperson of the planning commission shall have the right to appear before the county commissioners for the purpose of reported and documented recommendations of the planning commission.
That would
That-
satisfy
that-
my immediate concern.
You'd have to then copy that and put that for the same sentence for the vice chair.
Yes.
Or could you change that, say vice chair, to report those recommendations? That's all, have to put all that extra word again.
You could, to report those recommendations.
I don't know. What do you think about that, Harley?
Yeah,
You know, kind of infers that it You're reporting on the recommendations that the chairman was making.
We certainly don't want to get to the place that the record created at the county commissioners it could ever be challenged by people who attended the public hearing of here.
So I need to ask a question because I'm not clear. So to me, it looks like for the purpose of reporting documented, and that's the only word you need.
Yeah, I think that's would
Just
satisfy
add
my
documented
concern.
recommendations already there, so documented is the only thing you need. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You see?
Reporting documented
Yeah,
instead of.
documented recommendations of the
A
planning
reporting
commission.
document, okay?
Documented, so they did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my point. Whatever's in the record,
Said doc, yeah.
let the
Just add
record
one word.
speak.
Right.
That makes sense.
Good thought.
Later on in Article 8, at the bottom, number 3, agendas and petition information shall be mailed at least 1 week prior to the meeting, and then the petition information may also be emailed, so that's an update. It said 3 days. I usually mail all your documents at least a week in advance, and so.
By petition, you mean like any special
Conditional use, special,
things that are, okay.
things that are on the agenda,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yep. Basically your packet. Your packet's gonna be mailed at least a week in advance of the hearing, and then I can also email that to you as well, which I've been doing
You gonna meet
for.
that?
Huh?
You gonna be able to meet that?
I do. Look him behind me, I do, yep.
I do appreciate the email piece.
Yes.
We had
Me
that, how long have we done that, Harley? It seems like we've done that 3 years now.
2-3 years, something like that.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that piece of that puzzle. So glad, I mean, you're just basically just
you know, it
documenting that.
mainly tells me to watch the mailbox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives me a heads up for sure.
And, you know, there are times that my wife brings in the mail, so if I know it's coming, I watch for it.
I have one just general question on the revisions you got, Mark, just out of curiosity. You struck the term Reno County, basically anywhere here. Why? Just curious.
I felt that was an unnecessary word,
Okay.
because this is Reno County, we're not writing Butler counties or Douglas County bylaws, this is Reno County, so I just felt like, well, who else's bylaws would it be other than the Reno County Planning Commission or Reno County Commission? I just felt like it was unnecessary.
That's fine.
That-
As long as the heading on the title page.
Yeah.
Reno County.
Well,
Planning
that's
Commission.
kind of what it was, so,
Okay.
yeah. So, is that, I mean, I can certainly leave it back in, but I just thought.
No,
I
that's
thought it was
fine.
like-
I was just curious.
Yeah, that was my thinking behind a lot of that. I just thought it was kind of unnecessary, because who else would we be talking about other than the Reno County Commissioners or the Reno County Planning Commission? Last one on page 7, under Article 10, that I'll talk about would be the attendance. So you're expected to attend at least 8 of the 12 meetings of the year. If you don't attend at least 3 in a row, then you're considered to have resigned from the Planning Commission. Now, what I would say is that's subject to our review and our discretion. You know, I mean, if everybody has things going on in their life, and if you can't make it, you know, you can't make it. If it's excused by us, then you're fine. You know, if you can only make 6 out of the 12 a year because you have something going on in your personal life, that.
Yeah, you got a couple of words flip-flopped in there where it says excused, the by secretary.
Oh, okay, good catch. I don't think I did, I think that was written that way, but yeah. But, good catch.
But what you're saying is make a phone call.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. If you make a phone call, you tell me, hey, I can't be here, such as tonight with the other 2 members, you're fine. You're fine with me, you know. But if you just flat don't show up and don't call and I don't know what's going on, then you'll probably get a phone call from me what's going on. But this board, I can tell you, you know, if you look at your attendance rate, has been excellent, and I really appreciate your commitment to this board here and everything. I mean, I think all of you have maybe missed 1 meeting at most, You know, and so I really appreciate that. So, that's all I have from that. I think next month, I'll bring forth the BZA bylaws, which we'll have some further discussion on that, but, yeah, so.
I have a question on publicity. You had mentioned at the start, trying to align practice with, current practice with bylaws. I know the official county newspaper thing has to be in there, but it seems like in that number 1, the go-to place is the county website. So I guess I would expect to see that listed there.
See what you're saying.
Where's he at?
Yeah, on page
On page
7.
7, Article 9.
Yeah, I mean, because we do publish our agendas on the website, and
Would social media count in that too? Is that like the county's Facebook
I don't
page?
currently do that.
Don't do anything like
I don't
that?
currently put our agendas on social media or anything like that, but,
Yeah,
it's on the
there's one
website.
place that you can control
Yeah,
the message. You can send it to newspaper, radio, and TV, but you don't know what, if any
Right.
coverage you're
Yeah.
gonna get, so. But it does seem like the one control point you have is the county website.
so I could add, yeah, I mean, that's good. I could add website, because we do that now, we've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Good catch. Good catch.
Gotta earn my pay.
See, we'll get him up to the 15th century or get a Facebook page he can maintain.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like I had 3 additions, changes to that, so.
Are there
Anything else? Any other questions?
If there aren't any other questions or additions, Chair will entertain a motion.
I think the author here has done a good job of looking it over, and I recommend approval as we have discussed.
With the changes, with the 3 changes?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
May I ask who the second was?
Alan?
All in favor of the changes as discussed for the bylaws of the Reno County Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Last item of business. Oh, no, we got 2 more.
2 more.
2 more.
2 more.
2 more. Annual review of the zoning and subdivision regulations for any corrections or additions.
So this is a requirement. Every year, you'll see it on the agenda in December to give me suggestions or ideas. Obviously, we're doing one right now, and we've talked about this subject a lot. About future amendments to the regulations, and I think once we can get through the solar, we can start looking at some of the other ones that this board has directed. But through the year and stuff, have you noticed other things that we should be looking at, maybe make an amendment to?
I think we've already covered one of those, I think. That is under Article 1, Section 1-104 definitions, where we go into accessory building or accessory use to include the solar thing there, which would then bring into play the setbacks on those accessory use things. If I'm thinking right.
Yeah, that'll be a part of that discussion. Sure will.
That was in the zoning regs.
Well, and I would say, because we do have, I think we do have, let's see, we would have what a solar panel or so would be defined in the proposed commercial regulations, and so we might be able to reference that potentially, but,
That's your job.
Yeah, okay.
to figure that end of it out.
It's, yeah, I mean,
Throwing that
I
out,
hadn't thought, I hadn't
that
thought
takes
of
care
it.
of the one problem we had as far as on the frame mounted or post mounted
Right.
solar, that would, we include those as an accessory, then they would be subject to the setback and height requirements,
Okay,
right? If
yep,
I'm thinking right.
You're thinking right.
yep, yes, you are.
A year ago at this time, we talked about what should we be paying our attention to, and it was obvious that solar was going to be at the top of the list, and we have devoted the past year to that, but I can't remember what we had as number 2 item on our
Well,
list.
one of the things was the setback, or
We talked
the
about the setback.
ag lot
Ag lot
splits.
split was
That
one.
was my next thing to discuss here.
Ag lot
was-
splits and then the setbacks.
Yeah, we've kind of figured out what we want
Yeah.
to do on the lot splits, with the changes we already
Yeah.
wanted to make to enable that, and then to make the provision that if somebody's already done a lot split, then we can allow them to do a boundary adjustment, as I understand.
Right.
One time to fix it if they wound up with a smaller parcel than they wanted.
Yeah, this board spent a lot of time last year, developing this big spreadsheet, and I still have that, believe it or not, we just haven't been able to get to that, but yeah, ag lot splits was one, setbacks was another, and there's a multitude of other ones that shouldn't take as long to make that change, I wouldn't think, but it's still gonna take some time to get that proposal.
Yeah, I think, we talked about the ag lot splits first of the year, and we just kind of put that off for the solar, and
Yeah.
I know there's some people that would love to see that
So,
taken care of.
well, since you directed us to, make those revisions on the solar, I'll take a look at 104 and we'll discuss and see maybe best where that fits with the solar panels and stuff for residential. And we'll come back to this board with something. And you guys can hash it out and see if that makes sense or if you want to move it somewhere else.
That's all I had.
Good.
Anything else on this item on the agenda?
I know I have my list. One that I was going to include in the new public hearing that was unrelated to that, how it had to do with shipping containers. There's a typo in there, and there's some, there's not very good clarity, I guess I'd put it that way, with shipping containers and where they're allowed and where they're not allowed. If you look real close, there's an R3 zoning district, and it says that that's our lake lot zoning district, and we don't have a lake lot, and that was actually missed back in 2016 when we were reviewing the document, and so it just needs to be changed, but that's not nearly the issue that's out there right now with the shipping containers. There's some confusion in that, so I'm gonna try and lump that text amendment in with the other ones that we'll be doing under Article 15. So that'll be one that I'll bring forth to this board next month to look at.
Any other discussion on agenda item C? Agenda item B, annual review of the comprehensive plan for any corrections or additions. I didn't see anything that really was a red light outside of what there might be with what we have coming ahead of us.
Yeah, I haven't thoroughly reviewed the comp plan versus what maybe this new direction will be. I need to do that between now and January to see, if there needs to be a text amendment there. Initial thought is I don't think there needs to be a text amendment. I think what we did with wind would maybe also work with solar, but I'll have to make sure of that stuff. Comprehensive plan's about, 5 years old. Typically, we'll probably review that every 10 years and get that, updated with new population data and new directions on things. And so, that's not too far out, you think about it, with maybe getting that started updating. So, this board may still be together on that and going through, what we did several years ago back in 2018, 2017 with that review of the comp plan.
That was my first.
That was your first
my
year or
first
two,
year.
yeah. Probably thought, what are we doing with all this?
It was a big task.
But No, it's just like I say, it's another requirement that we gotta do, and if you don't have anything, that's fine. If you do, we can certainly take a look at a future amendment of that as well.
Any other discussion on the comprehensive plan? Okay, is there any other business that needs to be brought before this board? Okay, staff, you have anything else that needs to be brought forth?
I don't have anything.
All right,
So at our January meeting, we'll have a draft, updated draft or
That's
revised
my
draft
goal.
or
Yep,
whatever.
yep.
You have a copy of the Harvey County regs.
Yes, I do.
They have pretty extensive coverage on both, I think, the limited scale solar and personal stuff.
Yeah, yep.
Which maybe we can plagiarize or use that for something.
Yeah, there's no probably real need to reinvent the wheel on something like that. If we like what I've looked at them, there's some things in there that I kind of question on how you're gonna enforce that.
Yeah, they go into a lot of
And
depth.
everything, yeah, I mean, it's all great if you have a large staff to be able to monitor something like that, but,
Hire more people.
yeah. There you go. I like your thought. So, but, yeah, I do have a copy of that as well as others, and so, yeah, that's my goal, is to be able to give this board a draft, and then it'll be up to you to discuss what changes you want to make and let staff know at that point.
awesome. Anything else? Short and sweet. Everyone have a Merry Christmas, and happy holidays, safe holiday season. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.